Okay, so we're going to quickly go through saving a file. Okay, so there's a few different formats you can save your file as. The most popular really are, and we have already done this, we've saved our Photoshop document, which is a PSD file. I generally save all of my photos, all of my images as PSDs because PSDs support layers. So we have multiple layers. We want to maintain those multiple layers. So at any given time later on, and you can often have, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 layers depending on what you're doing to your file. You've got guys out there that do these huge composite images. They have multiple images blended together and so on, and they have many, many, many files. I've heard of guys having thousands of layers. So you want to make sure that when you come back into Photoshop at a later date, you can still access all of those individual layers, and you can adjust them if you want to, or remove them, turn them on, turn them off, and so on. So again, I'm just going to cover this again really quickly. If we just go into File, and we go down to, we're in Finder. So if we go into File, and we go to Save As. Okay, so we've already saved the PSD. We've got PSD selected. By default, it will have the layers ticked if you have layers in this file. And you can change the name. I'm going to do sample 1 just to give it a new name, so we save it separately. And then we're going to put it back into the same folder that it was in, so we can keep all our files together. We've got our raw file, our XMP file, which is a sidecar file. This is the file that has all those adjustments we made in Camera Raw. Okay, so we have a sidecar file, a raw file, a PSD. Now we have a new PSD with some extra adjustments we're calling sample 1. Okay, and we're just going to hit save. And now we'll save that file. You can see it being saved down at the bottom. Once it gets to 100%, that's it, the file's saved. Now we may decide we want to save out a high quality file for printing. You may want a TIFF file for printing. You can print JPEGs, you can print straight off a PSD if you want, but a TIFF file is a great file for printing from, as opposed to a JPEG has a round pixel. A TIFF has a square pixel. For printing, technically it's a better file. 99.9.999% of the population wouldn't be able to tell the difference. A JPEG is a much smaller file for emailing to a print lab or so on. A TIFF is a very large file. It can be hundreds of megabytes, as opposed to a JPEG can be, between 10, 15, 20, 30 megabytes these days. So it's a much smaller file, and you will get a perfectly good print from a JPEG. Okay, so if we were to go ahead and decide we did want a TIFF, we're going to go into File again, Save As, and we're going to change this now to TIFF. Okay, so again, TIFF also supports layers, but I generally only use a TIFF if I'm going to do a print. These days I do a lot of prints in JPEG, but if we want to switch off the layers, saving it now as a copy by default, it's going to save it in the same place. It's going to call the file still sample 1, but now it's got, at the end it has TIF, so letting us know it's a TIFF file. We hit save. Now by default you don't need to change anything here. It's to be honest, I'm not even 100% sure what these do. We don't want to compress it as anything. Save in a pyramid, really. Just hit OK. What the default is fine. Now you have a TIFF file, you have a PSD, you have a RAW file. Now you may decide, I want to send this away to get printed, but at this stage I don't want a TIFF, it's too large a file, I want a JPEG. Again, go in Save As, and instead this time we can hit JPEG. Okay, JPEG 2000 is a similar format, slightly different. Again, the differences I don't really know. It doesn't really worry me. I just choose JPEG, which is the preferred JPEG file type. Embed the original or not. We're going to embed the original color profile. And again, hit save. It's going to save the same file name with JPEG at the end of it. Okay, hit save. Now here we can change this. Now if you have a look, if we tick preview, it's going to preview the size of the file. Okay, so it's going to give us a 6 megabyte file. You could probably go down, you can go up to 12 and you'll get a larger file in image quality. It's, you know, it's 17 megabytes. But in fairness, the difference between 10 and 12 is negligible when you get a print on, and definitely on screen you won't see it. So you can go back down, you make a smaller file. If you really are worried about the size of the file, you can go down to 8, and I'll bring it down again for you to 3 megabytes. I wouldn't go much lower than that if you're printing, because you are going to start losing quality. So again, we're going to just hit save. It's going to save again for us, and we have another file type. Okay, so the final way you can sharpen is if we go into File, go down to Export, and Save for Web Legacy. Okay, so again, this is a simple way to save your file ready for a web display. Okay, so it's already set up here as JPEG. It's already on 70% quality. I'm going to change 8,000 pixels down to 1,000. Okay, so it's reduced the size for us. You can go to optimize to enhance it a little bit, but you've already done all your work, so just leave it at original. But cubic is fine for quality, and simply just hit save. It's going to give us an option of where to save it. I'm just going to leave it on the desktop for now, but you can go back and sort through and find your original file. Sometimes it can be in here if it's a recent file you've been in. Okay, but all you got to do is hit save, and that will save for you. So what it's doing, it's saying we've saved this already, and it's do we want to replace. I'm just going to replace it for now, and it's going to save over where I saved that original photo. So there we have it, how to save a file once you've finished doing all your processing. Save it as a JPEG, a TIFF, a PSD. Again, I save everything as a PSD, and then I produce my JPEGs from that PSD file when and if I need them.